There is no way that he just said this. Is for the first time since Mitch Marner leaving Toronto, William Nylander has broken the silence surrounding the truth behind Mitch Marner leaving. And William Nylander revealed some details that we not only have not heard up till this point, but changes the narrative a little bit surrounding the entire situation. We're going to break down exactly what that is, as well as discuss multiple other Leafs updates on this episode. But before we get into it all, if you're a part of the percentage who aren't subscribed to the channel, this is the place to be for daily Leafs content. So make sure to hit that subscribe button. And thank you guys again for your continued support over here. There's about 71% of you who are watching aren't subscribed here. So lots to go over today. And obviously, the Leafs are in a very, the Marner situation, that's obviously, past us. But that's what we thought until William Nylander came out, and in not weird fashion necessarily, but I thought there was going to be, and I said it in the last time we talked about Marner, that we're probably not going to talk about him too much anymore after Matthews came out. William Nylander broke the silence and said a couple of very interesting things that actually have implications here heading in the next season and how the team is going to look at themselves. So you can see here, despite reports suggesting that Mitch Marner already had his mind made up to leave the Toronto Maple Leafs midway through the season, Nylander pushed back on that idea that Marner was looking elsewhere while still under contract. And with him set to become a UFA, speculation had been swirling. And he's basically said that he basically took Mitch Marner's side here. And we'll go through the entire quotes and things like that. He said that not only did, Marner not want to leave Toronto necessarily, but he absolutely didn't have his mind made up beforehand. So contradicting a bunch of reports, and even to a degree here, it's crazy to see the difference in tone, I guess, between William Nylander and Austin Matthews as it pertains to Mitch Marner leaving, because Matthews also spoke out a week or two ago and basically wasn't as friendly as William Nylander was.
Yeah, definitely. And I think there's a lot to unpack here. And there was an interesting tidbit about how Mitch Marner, and this is William Nylander speaking out on this, how he was the guy that got the whole team together and planned events and planned parties and all these things. He really got the guys together. And now that he's gone, somebody's going to have to fill that role. And I'm just glad that they didn't end up trading William Nylander a couple of years ago, or that he wasn't the guy on his way out, because then they would have to fill the role of who scores in the playoffs. But I think William Nylander, he's not necessarily lying in all of this. I do think that obviously there's a little bit of what do you expect him to say in this situation to some of these quotes, of course, just like Austin Matthews that we covered the other day. But some of these are very interesting. And I do think he's telling the truth. I don't think Mitch Marner had it on his mind the entire time. I do think that he had it in the back of his head, but I don't think, as the Leafs were going into the playoffs, he was saying, okay, I'm definitely out of here. I can't wait to get out of here. I don't think that's the case. I think he was trying to put his best foot forward and try and win a Stanley Cup. His last opportunity with the team, you never know what was about to happen. I think the writing was on the wall. Everybody saw it. I say it's hindsight 2020, but at the same time, I think we all knew that it was probably heading this way. But I think that he was trying to win a Stanley Cup. So obviously Nylander's just doing his thing, right? He's just saying, that's how he believes that it went down, but obviously they're in the room. He also went on to talk about, the famous clip from the Amazon documentary a little bit. And he said that, things get heated sometimes, of course. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And it's true in sport, right? You're going to yell at your teammates. We see it around the league. Doesn't mean that you hate the guy, but I do think, I mentioned it before. If you watch the exit interview, I feel like you can pick up on some body language there. So obviously Mitch Marner is gone now. The team's going to continue to move forward without him. Matthew spoke about that, they're just going to put their head down, get to work. And they have a lot of talent still. A lot of people forget that William Nylander second in goal scoring in the NHL last year. And obviously Austin Matthews, if he gets back to form, you have two guys who could potentially be in the top 5 in goal scoring in the league. So I think the team will definitely be okay. They'll definitely make the playoffs. And I think that they're better, well-rounded, and built for the playoffs.
Yeah, you can see some of the quotes here. It's talking about how he's an incredible person, how he, like you mentioned, hosted team events like Halloween parties, dinners, all those kind of events. Somebody else is going to have to do that now. And he said being a friend on the side, an incredible guy. I could always talk to him about whatever. So, interesting. I think the biggest surprising, factor here is that he actually addressed the fact that Mitch Marner, or the reports about Mitch Marner potentially leaving. But other than that, it goes to show that it is going to be a much different, year next year. They have a ton of turnover, a bunch of different players. Obviously, Mitch Marner leaving is the biggest part of it all. And as it pertains to the actual, on ice product next season, he also dove into that a little bit. And he says there was positives that they took away from the Leafs playoff run last season, despite falling to the eventual Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers in 7 games. And he basically went on to say, stuff we kind of assume, right? Obviously, at the end of the day, we spoke about it on the channel a lot. Everything was kind of clouded by Mitch Marner leaving at the end of the season. Once it ended, they had a pretty decent run at it last year, and is decent good enough? Absolutely not, especially with the way that this team has performed over the past handful of seasons. And obviously, at the end of the day, they did okay, like I mentioned, but it's not good enough. And William Nylander kind of agreed with that. He said, it was probably one of our best seasons since I've been in Toronto. I mean, we pushed Florida to the limit. We had a couple of bad games against them, games 5 and game 7. But for the most part, we were right there in that series. So I think we can really build off that and learn from what we did wrong and be better in those situations. And he also went on to say, just to kind of elaborate more on the Mitch Marner thing, he basically, I'll paraphrase it, feel free to pause and read it, sorry, but not sure where this comes from, but I don't think he was ever thinking of leaving ahead of time. And he actually came out and said that they were talking during the season. He didn't want to press him on. And at the end of the day, he's happy for him and his family. So interesting there, some truth behind the scenes things. But for, as it pertains to this, it was, and obviously everything was clouded, like I mentioned. At the end of the day here, they had an okay year last year, definitely not good enough, and that's why so much change happened, but there is some positives to take away. But at the end of the day, they need to make an actual cup run and win the cup, and that's what, they've been trying to do for the past almost decade now, which is a little bit wild to see.
Yeah, and I brought it up before. There's an interesting quote from Draymond Green of the, formerly, I guess, of the Golden State Warriors 2019. He was talking about, obviously, Kawhi Leonard and that whole situation when they lost to the Raptors and how they were in the NBA final against the Toronto Raptors, but they were never close to winning a championship. And I thought that quote was very interesting. And I feel like that you can apply that to the Leafs. They had an okay run. They made it to the second round. Definitely the closest, and definitely myself in terms of feeling with this group, definitely the closest they've been, right, in 10 years. And you actually felt like they could possibly go on a run, but obviously fell short and they weren't even close to a Stanley Cup. So they have to continue to build off that in the future. Obviously, I feel like the group that they have here, the mentality going into next season is going to be a little bit different. I do believe that all the guys actually want to be here. And I think that's a really, really good thing. And they're locked up, and, some of the guys are older and really hungry to win a Stanley Cup. So that's exciting. And Nylander said it was one of the most fun seasons, right? He's playing the best hockey of his career. When things get going in the playoffs, he gets going in the playoffs. So that's a lot of fun to watch as well. So I'm excited to see what he does next season, but this team is definitely getting a little bit closer, and I think they're just a better built team heading into next year for these situations. You look around the league, you got exciting teams like the Montreal Canadiens, but are they built for the playoffs? They might get there again, but are they built for the playoffs? I feel like the Leafs are now at this point, especially with the bottom six. You have a bottom six that is physical and can score, can chip in. Of course, you have two elite players in your top six, and John Tavares as well. He scored almost 40 goals last year, right? So they're in a really good spot. I like these quotes from Nylander. He's very even keel. He's built for this market. I'm excited to see what he does next year.
Yeah, let us know down below, of course, what your thoughts are on all this. We even think back to November 2024. You can look at some quotes from Nylander saying, when it's all said and done, I just want to be the guy that was on the team and that won the cup for us. Forget about everything else. That would be the only thing that matters. Of course, he signed here. I was following his extension. At the end of the day, this is the only place to do it. And he's right. Hopefully the Leafs can get it done. And he's ranked as the 6th best right winger. Let us know down below if you agree or disagree with that. And you look ahead, still potential for moves. Of course, in the top 6, it's been very, very quiet. And, a month or two away from the month and a half-ish away from the season, really starting to ramp up and begin here. And we'll keep you up to date every step of the way. So let us know down below what your thoughts are. See you guys later.